coronavirus. Cowen analyst Andrew Charles joins us today. Talk about that, along with Telsey Advisory Group's Bob Derrington. Gentlemen, happy Friday. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Andrew, it's such a small slice of the global restaurant count. I wonder how you're modeling this, if at all.
Sure, we really aren't. I mean, when you think about McDonald's, less than 2% or so of their operating profits are derived from China. So we're taking this opportunity to look through the short-term impact from unfortunately, the tragic virus.
Bob, same to you. I mean, whether it's McDonald's or I might broaden it out slightly to talk about retail and luxury goods, if in fact this ends up being a situation where a lot of buyers and shoppers are kept from moving around for several weeks, let's say, what could the impact more broadly be on McDonald's or retail at large?
You know, specifically within the restaurant companies, you know, I think one of the key parts of their business has been the fact that they developed, you know, the delivery process in China, and that's a very important piece. That part of the business actually may do better during a period of time like this than their dine-in business. So it's kind of a back-end benefit potentially. Although obviously, anytime you close a restaurant, you're going to lose, you know, the value of the incremental experience that typically you would collect.
Andrew, I guess the question is just at what point it might become material in terms of just general slowing of economic consumer spending and growth and things like that. So what are you watching for as we try to monitor the potential impact across your coverage group?
Sure. You know, so this is going to be more impactful for companies like Yum and Starbucks in our coverage, which derive over 10% of their profits or so from China. As it relates to McDonald's, you know, I would say as we head into next week, this is one where there's about a 0.8 correlation between the forward multiple and U.S. same-store sales. And so we think things are going to be in line. We're modeling a pretty healthy 5% comp as we think about the U.S. for next year, or for this quarter, excuse me. I would also say for this as well, this will be a great opportunity for new CEO Chris Kempinski to really outweigh his thoughts on the business as well, and the path forward for opportunities to compete in breakfast in the U.S. as well as in value. I think that China should be addressed on the McDonald's call. It is a key market for growth for them, but it is a licensed market as well. And so we're not anticipating any long-term impact for this, but certainly monitoring any ongoing developments.
Yeah, Bob, there's the print next week's going to be interesting because there's a lot of fronts to watch. There's delivery. Certainly the dollar could be an issue this year. Rivals are trying to move in on breakfast. I see the social media game out of Wendy's continues to be a bunch of trash talk. What will you be looking for going into the print?
McDonald's is going to be very aggressive. They have been so recently. Through the course of this past quarter, they had stepped that promotional effort up. And we think the end of the quarter on a fairly strong note, particularly here in the U.S. As we look at the new year, McDonald's is not, you know, intending on giving up any market share. And I think their promotional plan, excuse me, around breakfast, around chicken, around value, around premium items, is going to remain very aggressive. And I think it's going to prove to be a very good year for the company, despite the fact that there may be a little bump in the road as it relates to China.
You know, Andrew, the story out of China up until the coronavirus has been about protein inflation, and people wonder whether or not that dynamic spreads to the U.S. Is food inflation, and especially in protein, going to be a huge headwind in 2020?
Yeah, so pork inflation is really the one to keep an eye on. I mean, the USDA estimated that about 30% of Chinese pork production has really been wiped out because of the unfortunate African swine fever. And so I'd say that would be the number one thing to look out for. Beef is still very fluid at this point, and the risk of contagion is obviously something that's being discussed as well, and something that obviously we'll find out more from McDonald's next week in the way that that's impacting it. But certainly looking at protein inflation is going to be key here as we look at McDonald's. Fortunately, it is a very franchise model, so they are somewhat immune within their own model from the fluctuations within commodity prices. But it is something, obviously, on a store-level basis that matters, especially as you have franchisees that are investing into remodels to make their stores modernized.
Andrew, you mentioned Yum, more exposed to the Chinese market. I know also you might be a little cautious on the stock in general for perhaps other reasons. So why do you feel that that's not as well positioned? The stock's already down like 12% off its high.
Yeah, so as it relates to Yum, we're keeping a close eye on Pizza Hut's U.S. business. Now, it's only about 8 or 9% of the operating income, but we think this is likely to poise to present a drag onto overall Yum EPS. Not only do we think that same-store sales are underperforming there and causing challenges, you know, for the business, it could certainly serve as a distraction to the new management team, especially if they recently acquired the Habit burger and plan to grow that pretty aggressively. And so, one thing that we'll be looking for within the Yum release is beyond Pizza Hut same-store sales, is the impact of bad debt expense and around how their royalty collections went from Pizza Hut U.S. franchisees during the quarter as well as we look forward.
All right, guys, as we said, that's going to be one of the more interesting reports of next week, and there are a bunch of them that we'll be looking forward to. Andrew and Bob, thanks.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
When we come back, more records for Wall Street. Evercore founder.